today's video we're going to go over refinishing the Chinese Type 53 type rifle. As you see there, the wood is atrocious. There's cosmoline everywhere. There's cosmoline all up in the action. But what we're going to do in this video is we're going to show you how to take that rifle and turn it into something like this. It's refinished. All the cosmoline's stripped out of it, and the gun's ready to go. It's still going to be an affordable gun at the end of it. It's not going to cost you too much to refinish it if you follow the steps I take. But we'll show you how it's done coming up next. And one thing I want to apologize for in advance is a lot of this is going to be done indoors, just because it's cold out here and I'm not going to refinish guns outside when it's cold. So a lot of it's going to be done indoors. I apologize for the lighting, but everything I talk about will be easily seen. It's just not going to look as pretty and as good of video quality. But anyway, we'll show you how it's done next. Alright, so once you have the gun disassembled, you're going to see that there's a ton of cosmoline on it. Obviously you can see here all on the barrel, and the wood here is just soaked with it. So what we're going to do here is take our heat gun. If you don't have a heat gun, a blow dryer works well. It's just not going to work quite as well. You can see I laid down some paper and some cardboard here just to soak up the cosmoline that's about to drip off. And we'll go ahead and show you how to do the metal pieces and then how to do the wood. Right now I'm just running this here on high. It's going to heat up here in a second. But all you're going to do is just keep hitting it with that heat, and you'll see it actually starts to melt the actual cosmoline that's on there. And this one has some sort of white thing on there. Lord knows what that is. It looks like a Chinese bug or something. But you can heat it up and you guys can see the cosmoline melting. Certain parts it's going to drip off, and other parts you're just going to have to like wipe up. Like right there. You can see that stop. That's the cosmoline right there. And you just keep doing that everywhere on the rifle. Like I said, there are parts that it's going to just drip. Other parts you're just going to have to wipe. And just keep going through over and over. And once we get all that cosmoline off, which as you can see it's starting to kind of build up here once it really gets hot, we'll go ahead and show you the next part after this. Well, correction, we're going to show you the wood here next, because the wood's a little bit different, and then we'll show you the next step. So on the wood here, what you're going to need to do is you're going to need to be a little quicker with your paper towel or whatever you're using. If you're using a rag, that's fine, because when you hit it with the heat, you can see it's going to turn right on it, and it's also going to, the heat's actually going to pull that cosmoline that's soaked in the wood. It's going to go ahead and pull it right out of the wood. You can see it turning from like a white, and see it coming up. This is going to take a while, so much, you know, you're going to have to do it. Hit the same spot probably 5, 6, 7 times, just depending on how much cosmoline's in that wood, but you want to get it all out. And the reason for that is twofold. One, this chew wood here is which is what this the Type 53s are made of, the stocks I should say. That wood's real soft, and it soaks up a lot of the cosmoline. The more cosmoline that's in there, the softer it's going to be. You kind of want to minimize that as much as you can. You can see it really just keeps coming off, and basically you're just going to keep doing this over and over again. Being careful not to actually burn the wood. If you see it smoking, like there's going to be some smoke from the cosmoline, but if you see it start to like smoke like a fire, then obviously back off, guys, and do it from a little bit more distance. But you're just going to keep going. These paper towels will get soaked, and you'll need many of them if you're using paper towels. But just keep doing that, and we'll show you what to do next. Once you got the majority of the cosmoline off the metal parts on the rifle, the next step I do is I take a little Simple Green. This is actually Simple Green, not generic brand. It's just a refill bottle we have. And some soapy water here, and just spray it down to get the rest of the gunk off, because you're not going to be able to get it all off by just wiping it with the heat gun like we were doing earlier. But we'll open it up, spray it down, and hit it with a brush and try to get that stuff off. And now I'm also going to run this through and down the barrel. The Simple Green, some guys will say, you know, you shouldn't use it on guns. Well, the only reason not to use it on guns is if you're using aluminum, because some of the standard types of Simple Green are not aluminum safe. They do make a version that is. But anyway, on a gun like this, there's no aluminum. This is all steel, so you're good to go. We're just going to keep brushing it off there. And I'm going to take a toothbrush off camera here after this too, and kind of get in the nooks and crannies, if you will, that you can't get with a big brush. But this is going to get the vast majority of any kind of cosmoline or just general gunk that these guns come with off of your metal surfaces. After this, obviously make sure you dry it so that way you don't develop any rust. And we'll get into the stripping of the stock next. Alright, so we got the cosmoline out of the gun, at least the surface of the gun as much as we can. as well as the top handguard here. What we're going to do now is strip this finish. I'm using just a basic, no-name varnish finisher, as you can see there. Another great product, if you guys are looking for one, is the Citrus strip, I should say. Stuff works really well. There just wasn't any in my store, and this stuff was like $3, so I picked it up. Anyway, what we're going to do now is just take the old kind of brush pad here that you get in any home improvement store. And we're just going to brush it on. I put the remover in this little tinfoil thing here so that way it's disposable. And you're just going to coat it on the entire firearm. And once you get done with that, you just let it sit. The directions are going to say 15 minutes, but if you let it sit a little bit longer, it's not going to hurt anything, especially since these old guns are just so, the finish on it is just, it's pretty durable stuff. I guess credit to the Chinese, if you will. So you definitely want to let that finish remover here go ahead and work in there chemically. So we're just going to apply this all over the rifle, and then I'll show you how to strip this stuff off up next. Well, I apologize for the lighting again, but the point of what I'm showing here is still range true even with crappy lighting. And this nice tinfoil background for you. We've had the stripper on there for about 25 minutes now, and you're going to see now, it's my guess anyway, why I say to leave it on there and leave it on thick. We're probably going to end up needing multiple coats of the stripper to get this off, because like I said, that finish there on the M44s is just nasty. If you're using if you're refinishing like a, like say an American made, like an old Winchester rifle or something like that, one coat will probably do it. But what I have here is just a steel brush. Actually, the instructions on this say steel wool, but there's no way steel wool is going to touch this, and you guys are going to see that here in a second. And basically, we're just going to dig in there and try to scrape all the crap off that'll come off while we do it. So, you guys can see there, it's starting to come off, but this is a labor-intensive process. My guess is we're probably going to have to do this about 2 or 3 more times. And the process is the same each time. You're just going to scrape off as much as you can. What you see there, that's actually what the original wood looks like. Everything else is the finish. So we're just going to keep doing that and keep scraping away until we get as much off as we can, and then start the sanding. But anyway, I'm going to turn the camera off, and I'm just going to do the rest off camera. You can see there, lots of this stuff that had that stuff on there, it's not even budging, so it's probably going to need a few more applications of the stripper to get it to go. We went ahead and finished stripping down the stock, as you guys can see here. It's still a little bit rough there. If you take a look at it, we stripped it down 3 times is what it took. There's still a little bit on there that I couldn't quite get out, but my guess is the sanding is going to take that out. Anyway, I did that, and then I washed the stock down to get the stripper off. Depending on what stripper you use is going to depend on whether or not you need to wash the stock. So that's why I didn't show it. You don't always need it. But I washed it off, let it dry, and this is where we're at now. We're going to do the first step in the sanding process. You guys can see here I got some 3M, just 100 grit sandpaper. I'm going to go ahead and sand it down. One thing you want to be careful of is, like I said, this chew wood is very, very soft. So what's going to happen is this thing's going to get clogged. It's just the way it is. There's really nothing you can do about it. So we're going to go ahead and sand it down. You always want to sand with the grain for those of you guys that are kind of new to this. And we're going to sand it down and keep going until I think it's where we need to be at. Now, one thing I want to mention is this stock is actually not dented like the other stock I had. The other stock had some pretty nasty dents in it. This one has slight dents in it, but the wood's actually broken. So if the grain is broken, let me show you what I mean by that. So if you take a look here, you can see, like on this piece right here, things like that are here. Once the wood is kind of not dented, but kind of cut into, there's no way to really raise that out. So you kind of just have to deal with it. That said, if you have dents in there that aren't broken, you can steam those out. But like I said, this stock just really doesn't have those, so I'm not going to go through the steaming process. We're just going to sand it. Anyway, get on the sanding process to show you what I talk about with it getting clogged anyway. I've sanded it a little bit here. And you can see this soft stuff just coming off like that. And it's also just clogging the paper. But just sand with the grain all the way around. You're just going to keep going until it's at your desired level. Now you're going to want to obviously go to a finer grain sandpaper after this. I'm going to go ahead and sand it all down off camera there so you guys don't have to watch that boring part. And I'll let you know which grit sandpaper I finished off with. And then we'll get into the staining. Through the magic of video editing, we've got it sanded down to the point I like. You can see it's generally pretty smooth. We finished it off with some 400 grit sandpaper. That said, again, with this chew wood, guys, it doesn't really, in my opinion, it doesn't really matter because the wood's so soft. It's not gonna it's not really going to sand down the way you'd like and the way you're used to with some of the Western woods. Anyway, so once you got to sand it down to the point you want it to, I already kind of wiped this one down a little bit. What you want to do, what the right answer is, the book answer, if you will, is to get some tack cloth from your local woodworking store, hardware store, whatever, and wipe it down with that. But the fact is, I simply don't have any on hand, and the gun costs $100 out the door, so I'm not going to spend any more money on it than I have to. So I do have some old jean material. You guys will probably recognize this from my ammo test. So I went ahead and got it a little bit damp with water. We're just going to wipe it down like that and try to get all of the little sandings and stuff, the little wood fragments that are still left behind in there. We're going to try to get it all out, all that sawdust, whatever you want to call it, get it all out. And then what I'm going to do after this, I'm just going to, you can see here, it's a nice sunny day outside. I'm going to leave this out in the sun for a little bit and let the surface dry off, and then we're going to apply the first layer of finish. Again, guys, the right answer is tack cloth. Again, I'm just not going to go buy any for a $100 gun that I really don't care. This gun's going to be a shooter. I don't want it to be a beauty queen, because it's never going to be that. If you're looking for a beauty queen, get yourself an M44. Those guns are gorgeous. But these Chinese versions, they shoot well. They ain't gonna look as pretty. We'll try to do our best, but we can only do so much, guys. Anyway, so I'm gonna let that sit out in the sun here for a little bit, and up next will be the finishing. I apologize in advance, guys, but when I was doing this step in real time, I forgot to hit record. But basically what you do after you get that wood sanded and cleaned up just how you want to lay down that first layer. I recommend putting down some commercial finish. This here is just some basic min wax. This one I believe is the Golden Oak number 210 Bravo, if you guys are looking for the same result I got, but basically any of them will work. The reason is, though, the reason I like to use this instead of just the tru-oil on these old T53s, or M53s, excuse me, is that the wood's just so crappy. It needs some sort of actual chemical protectant, at least in my opinion, to protect it from the elements and hopefully keep these stocks so that way 50 years from now we'll still be using them. But anyway, so I lay down a coat of commercial finish and then get into the tru-oil like you're going to see up next. We went ahead and let the min-wax stain dry on the stock overnight, and now we're going to apply tru-oil. This here is the Birchwood Casey. I think it works well on this type of wood for these type of finishes. You can also use tung oil, that's just fine. But in my opinion, the tru-oil is going to kind of look a little better on these really crappy stocks. But all you're going to do is dab it on a old t-shirt or something like we have here, and you're just going to rub it on. You want to, if you're going to err on either too thick or too thin of a coat, you want to err to the side of too thin, because sanding it down, or as you'll see, it's actually, if we don't actually sand it down, we're going to use steel wool in between coats. That's really what's going to make it shine and look nice. So if you're going to go one way or the other, err on the side of too light, and you're just going to rub it on just like we did with the min-wax finish, and go throughout the entire stock. And once this dries up a little bit, we'll show you how we use the steel wool. So we went ahead and let that first coat dry. There's our assistant gunsmith helping us out today. But back over on track here, there is the stock. The stock, like I said, is dried overnight, and it's a nice night out again, so we're going to go ahead and put the second coat on. But as you can see there's some spots that are going to look like they're more finished and spots that aren't, and all that jazz. But what we're going to do here is we're going to go ahead and take relatively fine steel wool. It's the finest I have on hand anyway, and we're going to go ahead and go over it real quick. We're going to go over it with steel wool. After that, we're going to wipe it up here with our denim to get the particulates out of it. Like I said, the tack cloth works better, but I'm cheap and this gun's cheap, so we're not going to buy anything for it. At least I'm not. And then we're going to go ahead and apply the second coat there, tru-oil. But all you do is take your steel wool. Again, the finer the better, really. You're just going to go over the finish. You don't want to sand it. It's not how you want to think about it. Best way I've had it put to me before of the kind of pressure you want to use is basically like if you're trying to hook up with a chick and you're rubbing her leg, whatever kind of pressure you do for that is kind of what you want to think at, like caressing it almost, but a little bit harder. So that's what you're going to do. So just light pressure, go over it, and just go over the whole stock, and we're going to go over all that, and then I'll show you the next step. So once you've gone over it with your steel wool, just take your damp denim or tack cloth again for the 18th time. Just go over it, make sure you get all the little steel wool particles that you can out of it, and all in those little cracks and stuff like that. And then next up, we're just going to apply the tru-oil just like we did before, and keep doing this process over and over again until you get to the point that you want it. On the gun I showed you in the beginning of the video, it took me about 4 or 5 coats. I can't really remember which actually, but that's about what it took me to get that result. I'm gonna keep doing that, and then up next you guys will see the finished product, and I'll let you know how many coats it actually took. Alrighty, y'all, here's the final product. I'll put a picture here at the end as well, so you guys can get a better look of it outside of these shadows that we're shooting in here today. But we ended up doing 4 coats of tru-oil on there, letting it sit for about a week, wiping it down with a rag. I did not actually go over it with steel wool again. If you do that, it'll give you a little bit more of a matte finish. This one, as you can see here, is still kind of shiny. That's kind of what I was going for. It hides the ugliness of it a little bit, at least in my opinion. Anyway, I hope this answers some of your questions on how to refinish these old rifles, and how you can get a pretty nice little shooter for 120 bucks, thereabouts, give or take 20 bucks depending on where you live and the market, obviously. But anyway, if you guys have any questions, feel free to post them here. You can also post over at my Facebook page. But thanks for watching, thanks for subscribing, and we'll see you guys in the next video.